Hello, everybody. This is Sarah Lyman, and today I am here as the co-host with SNL Real Estate Tips with Lana Sara.
Hi. Sarah, it's so great to have you again. I'm so excited.
Thank you.
So who did you bring for us today?
Oh, I'm so excited. Jason from Comparion Insurance Agency is here with us today.
Yeah, thank you so much.
We're going to talk about a topic near and dear to my heart. So give us a quick introduction. How'd you get into insurance?
Well, I went to work for Comparion last year. Prior to that, I was actually a loan officer.
That's
So
nice.
I've been for 8 years. So I've been helping people with their real estate needs in one way or another for quite a long time. And previous to that, I owned my own business, worked for a charity organization for 15 years. So I really know nothing different than helping people. If you ask me what I do, I say I help people.
I love that. And I found you because you are a business partner of NICMAR, the North Central Association of Realtors. So thank you so much for supporting us.
My
And
pleasure.
Lana and I are looking forward to supporting you in the future.
Awesome.
Mhm.
Awesome.
It's interesting that your background is a loan officer, then went into insurance. Now, listen, when we talk about insurance, I go, what? Like, okay, do we have to talk about insurance? Like how boring that is, right? But wait a minute, why did you move into insurance?
I needed a switch just to be
Sure.
honest. After 8
Sure.
years, anyone that's been involved, I'm sure even
Yeah.
you folks know, the loan industry's been less than pleasant over the last few years. I mean, real estate things.
Let's jump
things
into
have been-
insurance because
things have
that's
been
even
tough.
more pleasant.
I know.
Well,
right?
my thought was I really valued all the relationships that I built over the last 8 years.
Sure.
And if I wanted to do something new, but I felt like I'm still helping people.
Mhm.
I'm still on that same type of train, right? For 8 years, I helped people get into homes, and now I'm spending my time helping people protect their homes and their loved ones and their families. So I wanted something new, but I didn't want something that was, completely new, start from ground zero all the way
Mhm.
back. So to me, it was kind of like taking a sidestep of where I already was.
So I think about insurance. I do not pick up the phone and call my insurance company, right?
Mhm.
Maybe once a year to look at the policy or something. And I don't even, it's just like, okay, you have insurance, right?
Right.
So do you reach out to people? Do you ask them to reach out? I mean,
So what I try to do with all my clients is, and again, I think just because of my background between always customer service, people based, I don't know any different. So I will always encourage people that my clients, anyone I work with, I say, I'm available 7 days a week. You can call me, email me, text me, whatever you need. You have a question, it doesn't need to wait till 5:00 on Monday. You got a question? Send me a question. Because you need to have that relationship and be comfortable with people, and they need to feel like they can comfortably call you and talk to you about questions that they have.
I never thought of having a relationship with my insurer.
Mhm.
Like seriously, never
No,
thought of
I-
that. It's a company that you have to go sign up for because you have a home or you have a car. It's like a relationship. Like
Yeah.
that is really something I never even heard of in a relationship for insurance.
I do think I personally kind of come at it again from a different angle,
Yeah.
just because of my past. So I'm always try to be available to my clients anytime. But I also feel it's my job, obviously I want everyone to feel comfortable that they can reach out to me anytime, ask
Mhm.
questions and things like that. But I feel it's my job ultimately to be on top of things for my clients. Like I would hope if I'm doing my job correctly, my client shouldn't just receive a renewal notice in the mail, whether
Thank you.
it's, whether it's gone up a dollar or whether it's gone up $1,000. Like, it's my job to make sure a month or two before they're going to get that notice, I'm reaching out to them, letting them know, hey, just so you know, renewal is coming up,
Oh.
right? I'm not going to get to see that new renewal personally for every single renewal, but you're going to get it. I want you to know I'm thinking about you. I'm on it. When you get it, you have any questions, give me a call. You might be in the absolute right place. Now to be fair, there's certain times that people aren't thrilled with what it costs. And I understand that, but honest and open. If I review it, I'm happy to review. If someone has a question, review it. But there's times where the most honest and accurate thing I can tell someone is, You might not like what you're paying, but you got the best deal in the market. Just keep what you have.
And thank goodness you live in Massachusetts, because when we look at what's happening across the country, in Florida, in Texas, Oklahoma, California, you're lucky to pay what you pay in New England.
Correct.
We are blessed. And I know people don't want to hear that, but I have clients in other parts of the country that they're paying $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 in Florida if they have to have hurricane
and
insurance.
some of that's for condos.
You know, and when you,
like condo at $12,000
when you look at the
a year.
affordability, we're really, really lucky, and it's hard to see that.
Do you find, I didn't mean to cut you
No.
off, but do you find that most people, and I'm just going to talk Massachusetts right now, most people are underinsured?
A good percentage. I don't know if I would say most, but I would say at least 30 to 40% of people that, especially when someone new is coming to me, right? Because people will come to me and unfortunately, a lot of times people have that mindset of insurance. It's set it, it's forget it.
Yes.
I bought the house. My realtor's helped me get the house. I'm a homeowner. Wonderful. I sent my insurance paperwork over. I'm done. I'm insured. I never have to think about it again.
Yeah.
It's not that easy, because what happens is someone will send me a policy and say, you know what, my policy went up. Can you do a review? Can you tell me what it is? And you say, well, you know, your home's insured for $500,000.
Right.
Oh, well, yeah, that's what I paid for it. But you paid that 9 years ago.
Yes.
Right. And now that home is worth closer to, you know, $750,000.
Sure.
And depending on the way your insurance is written, God forbid you have a claim and it's going to cost $750,000 to rebuild the home, and you only have $500,000 worth of coverage. That is the last time that you need to have any additional stress in your life.
I am the set it and forget it homeowner. So I would put in a request once a year. Does this look good? Yep. Okay. Should I, you know, cut back on anything? I'm the first one that will say, where can I shave throughout the year?
Yeah.
Where do I shave to save some money? And the first place I look for is, I think, crazy insurance. Like, why do I need all this insurance? So Sarah, I'm not going to put you on the spot, but I really, really want you to share as much as you want to about what you just went through. And I think this is going to be a wide eye opener for a lot of our
I think so too. And that's why it was so important for me to have Jason come on today. I've been speaking with our state representatives, and they actually think it's closer to at least 65 to 70% of homeowners in Massachusetts are underinsured, given the way that housing cost price has gone up so much to rebuild. And that's what people aren't taking into consideration. Even if you bought your house 5 years ago for $500,000, the reality is it's probably $750,000 to rebuild that house today, because the costs have gone up and they're expected to go up even more because of the tariffs. So for those of you that don't know, my family and I had a very unexpected, tragic house fire about 2 months ago. And I mean, this is something that has disrupted and rocked our world and brought us so much sadness than I ever would have expected. And my husband is like the safety king. You know, he was very energy cautious, very cautious. Our home had a whole bunch of upgrades. It was a 1930s craftsman bungalow, and it was just from we believe, a power strip. It is an inconclusive electrical fire, but they did fixate it to one corner of our house where we had a power strip. And so people really need to think about this. We are underinsured. I'm a real estate agent who's been doing this for 2 decades that makes videos about the importance of having the right homeowners insurance. And in November, I said to my husband, hey, housing prices have gone up so much. I really want you to talk to the insurance company. And he said, yeah, that's a good idea. And then life gets busy and we just forgot. And luckily, we're in a place and our community has supported us so much that we're going to be okay. But it's a terrifying thing to get a call while you're pumping gas and someone to say that your house is on fire. And to understand what that means and how slow this process is to rebuild is even more heart-wrenching, because it's a disruptor in all factors of your life, you know? So it's just scary and uncertain. And when you lose everything, it's hard right off the bat to rebuild everything. You know?
What did you take away from that, Sarah, as far as like having a conversation with your clients now? Like, obviously, you don't want to come over and say, you don't have to do that. But what are you finding would be really important for them to look at first and foremost?
Yeah. Well, no, I am saying you have to do that. Like, this is so gut-wrenching and triggering to me. And when I look back at my career and all the people I've sold houses to and how unbelievably blessed I've been that none of my clients have had this happen to them, I want all of them to know you need to focus on insurance. We had crafted our home to be exactly what we wanted. Lincoln said to me 2 days after the fire, she said, "Mommy, it's okay. You get your dream house now." And I said, "Honey, I have my dream house. I don't need a big fancy house, but I want all of my clients to know." And like, I'm a real estate coach. I've said to my 30 clients when they called and said, "Sarah, what can I do?" I said, "Get on the phone, call your clients and tell them, revisit your insurance. Make sure you understand your resale value is not what's important. Your replacement value is what's important. And understand that dwelling coverage means demo cost, abatement of any hazardous products, clean out costs. It's not just you get a check for $500,000 and can rebuild your home. It's all of these things have to come off before they can even go in and decide if you can rebuild. That eat into that cost."
So let me ask something, and we're probably going to come back more and more questions for you, Sarah. But when I have a first home buyer buying their house and they have to get an insurance binder, one of the steps is on their commitment, they need to produce this.
Yep.
So what are some of the things that you have them talk about? Like, what are you suggesting for them? I mean, are these the questions you're asking? Or you're just saying, what's the cost that you're paying for the house?
No. So again, to your point, so for the insurance, yes, we have to fulfill certain agreements for the lender, right? You have to have a certain amount of insurance that they're looking for, but we are talking about replacement value, right? That's the big thing with insurance. And the way that it works, and a lot of times people aren't aware of this because sometimes people will call me up and they think like I have the ability to just put whatever number that they want in. It doesn't work that way. So, each carrier, and at Comparion, we have over 20 different carriers that we do work with. So each carrier has their own replacement cost calculator that they're going to use, and they're going to pull all the information that they possibly can from online, from public records, from past permits, things like that, all the information that they can get on the home, plus the information that I come up with from my interview process and questions. And we put all that information into the carrier, and they come back and they tell me, we will insure this property for X amount, because they're looking at, what they feel it would cost them to rebuild the home. If God forbid there's a total loss, what would it rebuild? And then there's a lot of things that go into that. Is it a home that was built in 1930s that they're going to try to do a vintage restore to get, more of that older type of look? Is it something that they're going to, it's very more modern? But, they come back with that number, and I might put a file through with 5 different companies. And I don't mean to make it sound like one company is going to come back $150,000 more, but I can get 5 different numbers because it's what they want. And sometimes people will say, well, I bought my house and I bought it for $500,000. And why are they saying it's going to cost $570,000 to rebuild? Well, that's what they feel is needed. And then there's some backups and some safety nets that we can put into that, because you need those, because what it costs, even if that calculator is 100% accurate, what it costs today to rebuild that house, there's a certain amount of guesswork of what's it going to cost if, God forbid, in 9 months to rebuild that house. And what if there's a labor shortage, or, supplies get jacked up, or tariffs or things like that. So
code upgrades is huge in Massachusetts.
Yeah,
there's a lot that really goes into it, but it's that replacement value that you want.
When someone's looking at their policy and stuff, is there some add-on, and I don't even know what they're called, but I'm going to call them add-ons that they should really take into consideration? So there's a policy, right? There's a number, but is there add-ons that you really should think about?
So what we do, and there's a few different ways that policies can be written depending on the carrier, depending on the home, what it qualifies for. You can have, to give you an example, always tell people you really recommend that you want replacement value.
Yep.
You don't want the actual cash value, because that's going to take in depreciation and things like that. So you want replacement value, what it's going to cost you to get, whether it's the new home, whether it's the new couch, whatever was damaged at today's accurate prices. If there was a water pipe break and it flooded the ground, and ruined your couch, and it was a $15,000 leather couch, you want the $15,000 it takes, or whatever it takes currently to replace that. You don't want someone coming in and going, I know it was a $15,000 couch, but it's 6 years old and the dog licked on that side and the kid spilled something over here and it's really only worth $4,000 now. So here's your $4,000, right? So you want that replacement value. And then there's some companies will have an option which is called guaranteed replacement value. And in that instance, what they will do is they're not so hung up on a specific number. Some companies will do for example, guaranteed replacement up to $5 million. So when you see your dwelling A, rather than a number, it might just say guaranteed replacement up to $5 million. So if you have a policy like that, you don't have to worry so much about that buffer, because they don't care if the dwelling is, 500,000, 700,000, or $1 million, because they're willing to insure for up to $5 million. But if you have just the traditional even replacement cost, so they say the home's worth $500,000, that's the replacement cost. You like that number, and today that would be accurate. But there's endorsements for very, very little money that you can do. You can do like an extra 25% of dwelling A, or an extra 50%. So for instance, for maybe, and again, I'm kind of just making up this number, but maybe for $40 more a year, if you have $500,000 on your dwelling policy, for maybe $40, you get 25% more. So you'll have an extra $100,000 worth of coverage. So now instead of $5, you really have $600,000. And that 25% buffer, that's what I like for people, because that's going to take into consideration the fluctuation in the market. Again, whether it's labor, supplies, building, things like that. So, there are things like that really don't cost that much money, that really can give you that added layer of protection.
Wow.
And just also the reason sometimes it makes more sense to add the extra 25 rather than, because sometimes people will say, well, why don't we just put the dwelling coverage up to 600 from 5? Mm-hmm. Well, on a HO3 home policy, it's really a package, right? So they come up with the number for dwelling A, and then everything else underneath is kind of based on a percentage of dwelling A. Well, sometimes, maybe they don't have other structures on the property. Maybe just got a small shed. Yeah. Maybe, they don't have personal property of 300,000, which might be given to them as the package. So when we do it as the extra 25 or the extra 50 below, we have the ability to do that without necessarily jumping up those other parts of the coverage, which would jump the cost up even more. So, we want to have people properly protected, but of course we want people to be able to do it at the best price and things that fit their wallet, right? I mean, you need to work that balance as an agent.
So if Lana has people that are about to close on a house and they call you for an insurance binder, and let's say the sales price is $385,000. Is that policy getting written for $385,000? Is it getting written for $450,000? Is it getting written for $500,000? I know you touched on that earlier.
Again, it's really going to come up to what that replacement cost calculator comes up with. There's sometimes, so if it was $350,000, there's sometimes where it's not uncommon that we might see that replacement calculator, instead of $350,000, we might see it come up at $325,000. And you go, well, I'm paying $350,000 for the house. And the idea was behind that is, but the insurance company at that moment is looking at what does it cost to rebuild the home? You're still going to own the land. You're still going to have the foundation in most cases, right? So the fact that if you say I paid $350,000 for the house, but they're saying it's going to cost $325,000 to rebuild it, it's not necessarily a red flag or a warning, because again, you own the land, you own that. But there are times where we'll have it come back and someone's paying $350,000 for the house, and then just based on all the details, company might come back and say, yeah, you paid $350,000, but we think to rebuild this, it would cost us $390,000. And
especially
that's
if the square footage is a
right.
big,
and that's
footprint.
that's what we're going to say. If you want us to insure it, we're going to insure it, but we're going to insure it for $390,000, regardless of what you paid.
So if the consumer comes to you and says, well, wait, I'm only paying $385,000, that's all I want, do they have an option, or they'd have to go find somewhere else?
First, what we have to do if they're buying the home, right? We have to meet the commitment that the lender is looking for, right? And the lender is going to want to see it insured for at least the loan amount, right? So that's the first thing we got to go to. And then the second thing is, we can't go, or we shouldn't go. I won't go. If a replacement cost calculator comes back and says, hey, it's going to be $380 for this, I'm happy to shop, because maybe a different company would say it's $360 for us, right? But if a company A comes back and says we want it for $385, and the client says, well, I only want to do it for $340, or I only want to do it for what my mortgage is. Yeah. That's not going to be a good fit. I'm going to say, well, I found the insurance company really is trying to protect your best interest, and I am too. So I'm going to go with what they say. If you're not willing to do that, I understand, and it's your choice, but then maybe we're not going to be a good fit and you should go somewhere else.
Do they have the right to come back to you and say, I know I'm buying it for $385, but I want it insured for $500 because I think that's what the replacement cost is.
They can always, you can always go over. Yeah.
So you brought that up about the $1 million, you can buy a policy that's up to a certain amount. Are those policies substantially larger in price? Or are those something that you might say?
They're certainly competitive.
Okay.
But there is, it's not like that policy is going to be, $2,000 more than a traditional one. It might be, a few $100s more, but there is with most of those companies, right? There is a certain fit that they're looking for.
Oh, gotcha.
Right? So chances are they're looking for a newer home.
Gotcha.
My home that was built in 1927, they're not going to, that's just not the category that's going to fall into that.
Sure.
But again, there are other companies that will do it, and you can really accomplish almost that guaranteed replacement with that 25 or that 50% extra, right? If you say it should be 500,000 and if we put 50% extra, well, now you got 750,000.
You're covered.
You're going to be covered for whatever's needed.
You think that once a year is appropriate to look at the insurance, or do you feel people should be looking at that sooner or different times? Or
I think once a year is fine, unless you're doing something significant. Did you put in something that either really changes the value, and a lot of times when I tell people you're changing the value of the home, that doesn't necessarily mean your insurance is going up, right? There's certain things that when you do betterments for the home, you're going to get a discount on the insurance. You replace your roof, you replace your heating system, you do upgrades to plumbing and electrical. Yes, you go, I just put a new roof on and I'm nervous that people are going to, my taxes are going to go up or whatever it is. But you're going to get a discount. If you have a brand new roof on, you're going to get a much better price for the exact same house than you do with a 20-year-old roof.
So you just brought this other point up. I'm going to put all my clients on the spot. When there's a new purchase, most of the buyers are looking to save money.
Yeah.
So they call up and they say, the insurance company is asking me, how old's the heating system? How old's the roof? And they all go, well, let's try to get, what if the home inspector said it's on its last leg? Like, what do I say to the insurance company, right? How do you must be able to work with them about this, because I think the fear is they think the stuff is stuff, meaning the roof is newer or older, or there's knob and tube or whatever, or there's asbestos in the basement, or I don't know of all the things, right? They're in more fear of disclosing than realizing. So talk to the consumer right now. What is important to share with the insurance company so that your premium is lower, but your coverage is there.
So that you're protected.
Right. Correct.
Just like everything else in life, and I understand 100% those fears, and I'm worried, and I'm trying to get this closed, and I only got so much money.
Of course.
Right? I get all that, but always say honesty is absolutely the best policy, right? Talk to me, talk to your agent. Let me know what's going on, because first of all, more than likely, a lot of their nerves and concerns as being a first-time home buyer, it's probably nowhere near the same level of a nerve or concern for me as someone who's been in it, right? So it's probably what they're worried about, probably not as much worrying to do as what they think. But if you're honest and upfront, first of all, you're not going to pull anything over on anyone. There's going to be inspections. There's aerial, inspections. Someone's going to show up to the house, even if they don't go in. They're going to come in and take a look. They're going to run reports on the homes. I mean, they're going to know, was there a permit pulled for a roof in the last 30 years?
Does it make a
like
difference?
Yeah, definitely. So, I mean, I always say, be honest, be upfront. What's going on? If we know all the facts, I can help you. If I can't help you, I can put you in a situation maybe with somebody else who can, or a different company or someone else. But you're not doing yourself any favors at all by not disclosing the actual facts of it. And you could be creating a much bigger mess for yourself, God forbid, down the road.
And nobody thinks it's going to happen to them.
Well, I always tell people, I know I get this a lot too, where I'd say to someone, you really, you put on an addition and we need to, you have a different home now and we really should address that. And, a lot of people, is anything going to happen? It's a 1 in a million. I say, you know what? I understand those odds, 1 in a million. But if you ever end up being that one person, you don't care about what those odds in the other 10 million were, because it's affecting you.
Yeah.
Right.
And then you find out how many other people that it's affected.
Yeah.
The amount of messages and DMs that my family has gotten saying, we went through this 3 years ago. We went through this 5 years ago. You need to talk to these people, has just been overwhelming to me. And to know that this is happening to so many other people throughout my small sphere is just life-changing to me. It's going to change the way I go about my business moving forward. It already has. And it's just so important, because when you lose everything, it's a huge disruption to your life.
Of course.
Unbelievable.
Your situation, and heartbreaking as it is, seriously heartbreaking, I think has opened the community in real estate in our area here, their eyes. I don't think there's been a day gone by, or at least a week, that someone hasn't brought up the incident that's happened. And not because, of course, everyone's concerned, and Sarah's definitely thought of her family and everyone is really concerned, but it's more really kind of a freak out moment. Like, this can actually happen to someone we know and in our industry. Now, that doesn't mean she did anything wrong and she didn't do it. But if anything that has come across from her information is, go check it out, your insurance coverage. Make sure you're looking at that. And I think about that, for my first home buyers, but I'm also thinking about it from, people that haven't sold. It's the set it and forget it.
Yes.
30 years they've owned this house. They've stayed, they have the same insurance company, the same insurer, and they just set it and forget
they don't
it.
call. I mean, Jason's one of the good guys, and thank goodness he is. But my husband and I have talked almost every single night since the fire about the fact that our insurance company has never called us and said, hey, your insurance is going up, or hey, you should do this, or hey, you might want to add this in. We had a brand new kitchen. We had brand new baths. Our electric was upgraded. Our roof was brand new. None of that was ever taken into consideration. And shame on us for me knowing it's going to cost more than $318,000 to replace my home, but also shame on them for just never calling, because that's their job.
I think it's this awakening right now. It's the biggest takeaway I've gotten so far from this is that relationship that you just brought up in the beginning. And this is why I want people not to be afraid to call an insurance company. If you get a voicemail, find someone that's going to pick up a phone. If you get something and you don't get a return call, find someone that can explain it to you. The biggest thing I find doing these podcasts is individuals are there. It's the hard part of getting it out. Like, how do you connect with these people? Attorneys, accountants, insurance people, real estate agents. Like, we're human beings, but there are us that will go the extra mile and give the comfort and help. And like you said in the beginning, you like to help people. You've been in all different organizations, but the relationship piece wowed me in the beginning, because I said, never in a million years, insurance to me is like this brick and mortar.
Yeah.
Yep, everyone's got to get
Gotta
it.
pay it.
Yep.
Death and taxes.
You're
and
stuck with it.
insurance,
Exactly.
Yeah.
You're stuck with it, right? But it's just a whole nother level of being responsible in a homeownership. This is your responsibility too. I think if you found someone that really would make you feel so much more comfortable. And I always have a 1,000 questions to ask insurance companies.
Oh, yeah.
We in this area, knob and tube wiring.
Even dogs.
Dogs.
That's
Yes.
a huge one. We didn't even touch on the Massachusetts pool insurance. But one thing I would say is for any consumers, real estate agents, homeowners, like call your agent, call your real estate agent and just say, hey, what do you think it would cost to replace my house right now? So that they have the knowledge to go to their insurance agent and be like, listen, I really think we got to up this, because what has happened in our area over the last 5 years between the amount of contractors we have, tradespeople we have, the cost of materials,
Crazy.
the cost of code upgrades in Massachusetts. I mean, 3 years ago, it cost about $2,000 to upgrade your 100 amp panel to your 200 amp panel. Now it's like another $2,500 on top of that. So you're like $5,000 just for electrical service in
100%.
Massachusetts. And these are the things people don't think about every single day. But people like you and I and all of the other realtors here in central Massachusetts are here to help and to spread that word. And I know that's one thing my family and I are very passionate about moving forward, is really getting together with the fire departments, getting together with the insurance companies and making sure that people understand, because we are an area of people that have economic challenges and they might not want to pay more for their insurance. But when something like this happens, there's no way to rebuild from it if you don't have the proper things in place.
Correct.
You know what I mean? And that's what's so scary to me. I do want to touch on pool insurance real quick. Do you guys do pool insurance? Is that what they call it still? Or am I dating myself?
When you say pool,
So,
you mean
if
like
you-
the mass fair plan?
Yeah, mass fair plan.
We don't, currently at this moment, we don't write with the mass fair plan.
Okay.
But it is out there. And if someone comes to me and I can't find a fit, there are times where I've told people, you know what, that's the place to go. Here's the phone number. Keep me posted.
So like right now I have a listing in Orange, Massachusetts, and it has exposed knob and tube. We see it. Can a consumer come to you and get insurance on that house?
We do have one carrier that I work with that I know will entertain that.
Yep.
Right. There's no way until I run it through the system.
Okay.
There's no way of me knowing if they will approve it or not. And it would be based on a whole bunch of other things as well.
Okay.
In a safety issue, it might come to an inspection. Similar with loans. Well, is knob and tube? Is it there? Is it working? Is it safe?
Yep.
Right. There's all those things that go into it, but. Would we have an opportunity to look at insurance? Yes, we would have an opportunity to look at insurance for them. And that's the best thing I can promise is we're going to look at every channel we possibly can.
German Shepherds, Rottweilers, other dogs that are on a bad dog list. Can you insure those people?
Certain carriers, every carrier has a different, kind of a different list. Maybe 10 of the 12 are the same, but some carriers are very, very, it can be what we call a knockout question right away. Do they have a dog? Boom. Is it on this list? Boom. If it is, don't go any further. Some companies don't have a list. Some companies have a much more lenient list. So again, and that was a big deal to me when choosing an insurance company to go work for. Again, I want to be with a company where I have a lot of options, right? Because being a one-trick pony in anything, if you're a realtor and you say, well, I only sell ranch style houses, nothing else, right? Like it's not all that competitive and it's not all that helpful. So I didn't want to be with a company that, I could only sell their in-house product. I wanted to have those options. So dogs certainly can be an issue, but again, we have options and we're happy to look at them all for people.
Does credit score impact your insurance costs?
So in Massachusetts, it's not legally based on credit score, which that's a very simple and easy question to answer. The problem is the real answer is much more convoluted because it's based on what's called insurance score. And your insurance score is an algorithm that each carrier can come up with. So it's not even a standard, like guaranteed, these are the 5 things that go into it. But insurance score usually consists of things like your payment history, outstanding debt, claims history, recent credit thing. Now, again, I don't do that on my end. I just say, when I'm in a file, it's just order reports. And that carrier orders reports, what they come up with. And a lot of times people will even ask me and they'll go like, well, what is it about my profile that they didn't like? Unfortunately, I don't get privy to that information.
Oh, interesting.
So they don't come back and say like files rejected necessarily because of X, Y,
X,
and
Y, and
Z.
Z.
They just say, filed, not approved. So I don't always have that answer. And again, in life, I think it's just general good advice to do everything you can to have a good credit score, because it's just going to help you financially throughout life. But it's all based on insurance score in Massachusetts, which certainly has credit score characteristics built into it. But
I didn't know that.
I don't. It's not a black and white of this is what the insurance score
What
is.
happens if somebody actually gets rejected?
We look at a different carrier.
There's always going to be someone, maybe?
Most of the time. Most of the time.
I mean, think about it. They're ready to buy a house.
And that's what they're saying to us. They're like, the second they pay out, you're getting dropped. And we are a family that have never had any insurance claim at all.
So what happens?
Like, we're going to have to find a new carrier. Quincy Mutual will not want us anymore, even though our credit scores are great and we've never made a claim. But it is what it is.
Wow.
Super interesting. And when you start to dig into it, more and more questions come up. There was recently a fire in the same community that I live in, and the people had a bunch of outstanding electrical permits. And it's been a year and a half, I think, since that fire, and they still haven't gotten paid out on it because none of those permits were closed. It was like 3 different electricians, all with open permits. It was an electrical fire. So that family, they cannot be made whole.
I wanted to ask that one question about payment. So when that happens to people and they need to get their life back into gear, how long does it take for them to get their life back into gear? Like, when did they get the money?
I've racked up $25,000 in credit card debt so far in the last 6 weeks. Because you have to think about it. We left our house that day with the clothes on our back. I was lucky. I had my computer and my work bag in my car and one set of clothes. And the clothing that I had was my Norwegian sweater that I got from my brother that I could not replace because it was going to snow the next day. But you got to think about that. We're a family of 6. You got to have shoes. You got to have clothes to wear. You got to go buy new toothbrushes. You got to go out and buy new bras and underwear. I had a meltdown in the shower one day because I went to go shave my legs and I didn't have a razor. It's little things like that. And you got to think about, it's not like we're going out and buying new stuff. We went to a military space where you can go and get used furniture to put in our temporary house because we're not going to buy anything. We don't know where we're going to be in 6 months. But that's how quickly the things go up. And our insurance agent gave my husband $20,000. They've released $20,000 so far. But everything has to be itemized. All of it takes time. If our community didn't come together and support us the way that it has, we would be really financially challenged because it's hard to go back to work right now.
Yeah.
When your 4 kids are crying because their pets died and they don't have a home, it is really hard to show up and be there for your clients.
Right.
And so these are the things people don't think about. And that's like why I'm so passionate about it, because you have to make sure your I's are dotted and your T's are crossed. You need to make sure that if you have a wood stove or a pellet stove, you have a permit for those, because if not, you're not getting paid back.
Right.
If that's the cause of the fire.
The biggest thing that comes up in a lot of the transactions that I have when I list a property is I ask about permits. And a lot of times clients, and I'm probably a person, I would do probably the same thing. I haven't been in the position, but I would say, well, I don't know if a permit or not. But I think people need to find out when they're doing things, is a permit required? Is it not? And if they decide, let's just use an example, finishing off a basement, they just want to put the walls up and they want to do some work. Is it required? If they don't want to do it, well, there's a chance. It's not necessarily about value, so to speak. It's about the replacement if something does happen.
And proving it's there if there's nothing there anymore. There are 3 rooms in my house that you can't tell what room they were. You cannot see if it's a living room, a dining room, or a kitchen. So think about that. I'm telling all my clients, go through once a year and take a picture of every single room at your house of every angle.
That's interesting.
So that if anything happens, you can go back and get brain triggers as what's there. Think about what happened in Leominster and Fitchburg.
Oh, right.
3 years ago with the flooding. These are things that we think in New England aren't going to happen to us. And that's not a fire. That's a natural catastrophe that affected so many people.
Right.
And it stops your life. You can't go to work after your house is flooded for a couple days. And that's a loss of income. So there's just a lot to think about. And I really hope people start to take this a little bit more seriously. I hope insurance agents like you
I do.
really building on those relationships, because that's what people need. They need somebody to feel comfortable about saying, is this enough?
Mm-hmm. Or guide me to get to that enough stage if I can't do it yet.
Yeah.
And I think that this my like I said, my big takeaway would be is you don't necessarily have to leave your insurance company or the person that you're working with, just to see if you could build that relationship better.
Yeah.
And I'm not here to like tell you everyone come to Jason, but
It's not a bad idea.
No, it's not a bad idea. But I'm saying that people need to get on the phone and take a little bit more responsibility.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Proactive rather than reactive.
Yes.
Right?
Thank you.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here to support the agents
pleasure.
in this area. We really appreciate it more than
Thank
you
you so
know.
much for inviting me. My pleasure.
Yeah.
So Sarah, let's finish on a good note. Where can they find you, Jason? I know you're gonna give some information, but where do they reach out to you?
You can call me directly.
Great. You have a website, maybe?
We do. I have a website.
Nice.
Directly.
And they can find you on social media.
Find me on social media. Jason Aracelian of Comparion Insurance.
Oh, that's a mouthful, but
It's
a mouthful. But I try to be out there. I'm on, Facebook, LinkedIn.
great.
And again, we'll have some information for this.
And of
once it gets
course,
in.
Sarah and I, you're our business partner, so we can share information if they reached out to us.
Mhm.
So yes, so subscribe. Tell us some more topics you want to talk about. It's so important, this information. It might have sounded dry when I thought of insurance. I'm like, what? What are we doing, Sarah? But it's really important for us to know what you want us to dig into and find out for information. So subscribe and reach out to us. You can find me, Lana Kopsla, Coldwell Banker in Leominster. And Sarah, where do we find you?
So I am Sarah Lyman with Real Broker in the North Quabbin on the hometown team. And I would really encourage you, if you have further insurance questions, reach out to Jason. He will look over your policy for you and let you know where the gaps are, because it's really, really important that you have the right coverage.
Absolutely.
Thanks for sharing your story.
Yeah,
Thank you.
of course.
Thank you.
Of course.